Long ago, an evil spirit crafted a cursed mirror that twisted everything beautiful into something ugly and wicked. Every flower turned rotten, every kind face became hideous, and all goodness vanished in its dark reflection. The spirit carried the mirror high into the sky, wanting the whole world to see only darkness and despair. But the mirror slipped from his hands and fell, shattering into a million tiny pieces across the earth below. Some shards were no bigger than grains of sand, drifting silently through the wind to every corner of the world. If a shard landed in someone's eye, that person would see only the worst in everything around them forever. And if a shard pierced someone's heart, that warm heart would turn as cold and hard as a block of solid ice. The broken pieces of the devil mirror scattered everywhere, waiting quietly to bring misery to anyone they touched.
In a small and peaceful village, two children named Gerda and Kay lived side by side like brother and sister. Their houses stood so close, and a little wooden bridge connected the two attic windows above the street.
Between the windows, they grew beautiful red roses in wooden boxes that bloomed brightly every summer. Gerda and Kay spent every day together, reading stories under the roses and laughing in the warm sunlight.
In winter, they pressed their faces to the frosted window and watched the snow falling softly on the village. Gerda loved Kay dearly, and Kay always promised to be her best friend through every season that came along. The village was small and quiet, but for Gerda and Kay it held everything they could ever need or want. Life was simple and warm, and the two children believed their happiness together would last forever and ever.
One cold winter day, as Kay played outside in the village snow, something sharp stung his eye without warning. A tiny shard from the devil mirror had flown through the air and lodged itself deep inside Kay's left eye. Moments later, another shard pierced straight through his chest and buried itself deep within his warm heart. Kay suddenly felt nothing but coldness, and the beautiful roses on the windowsill now looked ugly to his eyes. Kay began to mock Gerda and laugh at the things he once loved, his words sharp and cruel like winter frost. Gerda did not understand why Kay had changed so much, and her eyes filled with tears whenever he pushed her away. Kay no longer wanted to sit beside Gerda or look at the roses. He only cared about the cold and the snow now. The boy who once loved everything warm had become a stranger with a frozen heart and eyes that saw only ugliness. That night, a terrible blizzard swept through the village, howling winds shaking every window and every door. Through the swirling snow, a great white snow sleigh appeared, gliding silently through the frozen village streets. Sitting upon the snow sleigh was Snow Queen herself, tall and beautiful and terrifying in her gown of pure ice. Kay stood in the street staring at Snow Queen, unable to move, completely hypnotized by her cold, shining beauty. Snow Queen reached down and gently kissed Kay on his forehead, with her lips as cold as the deepest winter. The kiss made Kay forget everything, his home, Gerda, the roses, and all the warmth he had ever known before. Snow Queen lifted Kay onto the snow sleigh beside her, wrapping him in her icy cloak against the freezing wind. The snow sleigh rose into the dark sky and vanished northward into the blizzard, taking Kay far, far away forever. When morning came, Kay was gone, and Gerda searched every corner of the village, calling out his name in vain. Nobody in the village knew where Kay had gone, and some people whispered that he must have been lost forever. But Gerda refused to believe Kay was gone. Deep in her heart, she knew he was alive somewhere far away. So Gerda put on her red cloak and boots and walked alone through the village gate into the unknown world. The road ahead was long and covered with snow, and Gerda had nothing with her except courage and love for Kay. She walked through frozen fields and dark forests, never stopping, even when her feet ached and the wind bit cold. Gerda asked every bird and every river she passed if they had seen Kay, but no one could give her an answer. Still, the brave little girl kept working northward, determined to find Kay no matter how far the journey ahead.
Gerda wandered far until she came upon a magical garden where flowers of every color bloomed in endless summer. The flower garden was so beautiful and warm that Gerda forgot the cold, forgot the snow, and sat down to rest. Surrounded by sunflowers and lilies and tulips, Gerda began to smile, feeling peaceful and happy once more. Days passed in the flower garden, and Gerda played among the blossoms, slowly forgetting why she had come at all. The enchanted flowers whispered sweetly, and their magic made Gerda forget about Kay and her important journey north. But one morning, Gerda noticed a red rose blooming in a corner, and the sight struck her heart like lightning.
The rose reminded Gerda of the roses she shared with Kay, and suddenly all her memories came rushing back at once. Gerda leapt to her feet and ran out of the flower garden as fast as she could, back into the cold winter world. Gerda traveled on through a dark forest until she was captured by a band of wild robbers hiding in the trees. They brought Gerda to their camp, where a fierce young robber girl stared at her with curious and suspicious eyes. Robber girl was tough and wild, carrying a small dagger at her belt and afraid of nothing in the whole world. Gerda told robber girl about Kay and how Snow Queen had taken him away to her palace in the frozen far north. Gerda spoke with such love and bravery that Robber Girl felt something warm stir inside her rough little heart. Robber Girl had never met anyone as brave and kind as Gerda, and she decided she wanted to help this strange girl. Robber Girl cut Gerda free and pointed north, telling her the way to the frozen land where Snow Queen lived. Gerda thanked Robber Girl and hurried away into the snowy wilderness, one step closer to finding Kay at last. Gerda pressed on alone into the frozen north, where the snow grew deeper and the wind grew colder every step. The land stretched wide and empty in every direction, nothing but white snow and gray sky as far as she could see. Gerda's little red cloak was the only color in the whole frozen world, a tiny flame moving through endless white. Her boots sank deep into the snow with every step, and ice crystals clung to her braids and her frozen cheeks. The northern lights appeared in the sky above, shimmering green and purple, guiding Gerda ever closer to the north. Gerda was tired and cold and hungry, but she never once thought about turning back to warmth and safety behind. She whispered Kay's name into the howling wind, believing with all her heart that he could somehow hear her voice. Through the blizzard ahead, Gerda finally saw a faint blue glow on the horizon, the palace of Snow Queen, at last. Gerda reached the enormous ice palace, its towering walls of blue ice glittering under the shimmering northern lights. She walked through the massive ice doors into the great frozen hall, her small footsteps echoing in the vast silence. The palace was beautiful but empty and cold, with frozen chandeliers hanging from ceilings as high as the sky above. In the very center of the palace, Gerda found Kay sitting alone on the frozen lake, pale and completely still. Kay's skin was blue with cold, his eyes were empty, and he did not look up or notice Gerda standing there. Kay sat surrounded by flat ice pieces of the ice puzzle, moving them slowly with his frozen fingers again and again. He tried endlessly to arrange the ice puzzle into the word eternity, but the pieces never fit no matter what he did. Gerda called out to Kay, but he could not hear her, trapped in the cold spell of Snow Queen and the cursed mirror. Gerda ran to Kay and threw her arms around him, holding him tightly even though his body was cold as solid ice. Gerda began to cry, and her warm tears fell onto Kay's frozen chest, melting through the ice around his heart. The tears burned away the shard of the cursed mirror buried deep inside Kay's heart, shattering its dark magic. Kay blinked and gasped as warmth flooded back into his body, the color returning slowly to his cheeks and his eyes. Kay looked at Gerda, and remembered everything at once: the roses, the village, and the friend he had forgotten. Kay began to cry too, and his own warm tears washed the last shard of the cursed mirror out of his healed eye. Around them, the ice puzzle pieces slid together on their own and formed the word eternity, glowing with warm light. Gerda and Kay walked hand in hand out of the ice palace and journeyed home to village, where the roses bloomed again.